So today I'm going to Brussels. I've got a couple of things planned. First of all, I'm meeting up with a tattoo artist from France called Non. We've been DMing back and forth, and I photographed several of the people that he tattooed, such as Paul, Monsieur Renard, Miss Yang Lu, and probably even several more. So he told me that he would be in Brussels for the next 2 weeks, and that if I want to meet up, we could hang out and have a coffee. Then afterwards, I heard that he was staying at the shop where Krusty Cola is tattooing, or actually is guesting at a shop where Krusty Cola is tattooing. If you don't know Krusty Cola, he's also a tattoo artist living in Brussels, and I photographed him for my first book. Back when I photographed him in 2019, he didn't have like an extreme amount of face tattoos. He did have some mandalas on the side of his face, but meanwhile he added several layers, and his look right now is super impressive. So I decided that it would be nice to combine meeting Non with doing a new photo shoot with Krusty. And I'm also planning to do like a short video interview with Krusty somewhere along the line as well. So I think this video is going to be a bit more vloggy again. Trip to Brussels, meeting Non, photographing Krusty, video interviewing Krusty, and we'll see what the day brings if we have some time left. Please introduce yourself to start off.
Okay, I'm Krusty Cola. I'm a former tattoo artist. I'm 45 years old now. And now I begin my new career as a YouTuber, making my YouTube channel.
Where are we located now?
Now we are located in No Regrets. It's a private tattoo studio. I founded this studio in 2017. That's 7 years ago, and when I stopped tattooing because I had a spine hernia, I transmitted the studio to Max Lennart, a very talented tattoo artist.
That's already one of the main questions that I had. Like in 2018, you had the spine hernia.
Yeah.
So I saw in one of your videos that you woke up, could hardly walk, having tons of pain. Can you tell me a little bit more about how that impacted your current situation in life back then, and what you did to transform your life at that point?
Yeah, I always had a bad back, had health issue with my back, and of course tattooing is not the best activity when you have a bad back. And yeah, one day, as I've said it hurt very much, and I cannot walk at those time, and I was like, okay, I go to the doctor. It was a spine hernia, and it was impossible to tattoo anymore. Then I've made a professional regression, working in for corporate job, 9-to-5 job, and so on. I still tattoo since time to time some friends. In a way, it was interesting because when you are an artist, you have always some limitation, and you have to deal with this limitation. And having my back problem, I had to deal with that. And I think artistically my tattoos is more interesting since than before, because I had to adapt, and in a way I cannot make a tattoo session for more than 1 hour. And what I like in tattooing is to play with the body. And when you have to make short tattoo session and have the size to play with the body, you have to play with lines and abstract lines, and play with the graphical aspect of the lines and the body natural curves. And yeah, for that it was in a way it was an interesting experience. I prefer to didn't have a spine hernia, but you have to deal with what happened in your life. I'm quite a zen guy. Okay, if life say that, I have to do it.
Okay. So the corporate job that you started doing back then was about data. You have a background in IT.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit more about if at any moment your corporate life or your tattoos involved or had an impact on your corporate life, if it held you back, if it didn't have any impact at all, or just like a general conclusion as to if your tattoos had an impact on your corporate job?
Yeah, in fact it had a huge impact, but not the impact people think it will be. I'm a data specialist. When I stopped tattooing, in fact I have a computer science background. I've learned computer science at university. But when I had to stop tattooing after 11 years of professional tattooing, it was a very big unfair advantage to be in a corporate with tattoo studio manager background and tattoo artist background, because when I compare with other computer scientists, I'm the only one who have dealt with more than 10 years to deal with humans instead of computers and so on. And it's a very big unfair advantage to be the computer scientist, but with also a marketing mindset, business mindset, and so on. And in the corporate environment, I was good to be the bridge between business, marketing, graphics, because when you talk to computer scientists or when you talk to business people, they don't understand the aspect of aesthetics, and the graphics designer in corporate are always alone. It's important to make a nice aesthetics, and they don't care. And everybody was happy that I'm there. Okay, I'm a computer scientist, but I understand what graphic design, how important it is, because as a tattoo artist, all the days you deal with clients where the graphic design is important, where you have to sell, because if you don't sell, you're just homeless. It's a big unfair advantage.
How did your tattoo journey specifically, up until the part where you were forced to change jobs, how did you get to the point where you weren't a tattoo artist, up until the point that you started getting involved into tattoo shops and becoming a tattoo artist?
Okay, wow, it's a long story. I was in holiday in Montpellier, in south of France, and it was in 2003. And there was a tattoo studio there, and I was drawing already, and I always want to be a tattoo artist. And I was just randomly working there, and I show my drawing, and the tattoo artist there say, okay, if you want an apprenticeship, you can do it. Montpellier was very far away from Brussels, where I live. But I was like, okay, I want to be a tattoo artist. At those times, there was no internet. It was very difficult to find an apprenticeship and so on, or just find information about tattooing. And I jumped on the occasion, and I begin to work there. Okay, the guy was totally a bastard. Gilles, you're a bastard.
We'll add Instagram below it.
No, I don't know if he's still alive. But I've learned how to wash a tattoo studio, how to wash the toilet, how I've learned tattooing the hard way, how to put the needles together, how to make all the sterilization. But in a way, it was a good schooling, because I've learned the basics, and the guy was very not nice, but he was very hard and critical about tattooing, because he make a very high level about tattoo quality, and I keep that from him.
So one good thing that you got from him.
Then I've made some tattoo apprenticeship, very bad one each time. I don't know if I'm a bad tattoo apprentice or just unlucky. Maybe a combination of both. And one day, it was in 2007, I was in Montreal, and it was the Montreal Tattoo Convention there. And I was at the airport alone, and I've seen two people very tattooed, and I suppose, okay, they're here for the tattoo convention. People was less tattooed at those time. And they say, yeah, I'm for the convention, and there is a party before the convention, you can come with us. And I was just kind of teenager, or young, not tattoo artist, far away from that. And I arrived at this party, and there were some of the best tattoo artists of the world there, because Montreal, basically, you have all the good American tattoo artists, but all the good European ones, especially the French one. There is a Belgian tattoo artist who was coming after that with Mr. P, and he was like, Mr. P, he arrived at the party because he was doing the Montreal Tattoo Convention, and he saw all the best tattoo artists and me, because I know him from Brussels, and I was just a stupid guy who asking for an apprenticeship each time. And and he said, what the fuck are you doing there? And I say, I'm here. And he said, okay, I see your motivation. If you need to work as a tattoo artist, come to my tattoo studio. And I began to tattoo in the 15th January 2008. Okay. I remember because it was in September 2017, the convention, and I say, okay, in 4 months come. And the first day I was there at the opening of the tattoo studio. And I began to work there. Then I became bankrupt, and I keep all the team, and we create our own tattoo studio, Tendre Fury, with Mr. P, Arjuna, who's died unfortunately now, and Jörg. And at 4 we make a lot of tattoo conventions, especially in France, and we make nice work. And then I tattoo a lot of time. I've gone in Switzerland, I've experience there, and after that I come back, open a tattoo studio here, La Pédale Électrique, but it was a street shop, and I want to be more private, and finally I opened this tattoo studio. It was called What the Facts before Max get it, and I was in private tattoo studio since.
Okay, perfect. That's a nice summary, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Face tattoo question. So when we first met, you had like the mandalas here.
Yeah.
Since then, I photographed you. I made a Polaroid of you when we had burgers. I think it was at Manhattan Burgers. And then you were starting to get your face blacked out. Now you are in like a even farther phase. Can you maybe walk me through the different phases, who did what, and how it evolved from when we first met with the mandala up until what it is now, and maybe what's this inspiration aesthetically wise?
Okay, good question. My face tattoo journey began, I think, 15 years ago when I get my head tattooed. It was in 2009 by Olivier Julien from Montreal, Tattoo Glamour. The tattoo goes a little bit here on the side. I also make a tattoo from Face the Fact in Austria, who's make a tattoo who go on my chin. And then in 2015, I guess, William from Marseille make my mandalas. For the inspiration, a lot of people see tattoo like you make a tattoo, it's permanent for the rest of your life, and I don't see tattoo in that way. For me, tattoo it's more something on your body, and it evolves organically with your life. And especially for the face, I think it's interesting because face is your identity. I think it's interesting how different artists interpret your identity. And how it evolves with your life. I like to change my face each time I have a big transition in my life, like a chameleon or a snake with a new skin. And yeah, after I had the mandalas, all the tattoos, I was super happy, and I'm super sorry that I've made cover on tattoos from very good tattoo artists. Apologize. And William, who made my mandalas, is still a good friend of mine, and he is still doing a very nice job, and I love this guy. After that, I see the work of Theo Tribe. I see also Gus, who makes some part of my face. In my artistic world, I make a transition between cartoon, very colorful tattoos, and I've gone more to abstract tattoos. And the same evolution was on me, and the discussion with Theo was about because I made the face tattoo with Theo when I was no more tattoo artist, and I was working as a data specialist. I want to mix the two, patient tattooing and computer science, to make more kind of cyber graphics inspiration, and we have gone that way. There was a lot of thought, lot of discussion, but it was a kind of organic process. Tattooing is always about a meeting between a tattooed and a tattoo artist, and I like the evolution of this meeting with time.
Okay, perfect, thank you. I really like the new phase. I think it's really very strong. And one thing that I remember from one of your videos is that you say that if you tattoo your face, it changes your identity, but it can also give a lot of power to the person or the people wearing the face tattoo. Do you think that getting your face tattooed made you feel more you and make you feel more powerful, or I don't know if powerful is the right word, but make you feel more...
Self-confidence?
Self-confident, yeah.
Yeah, definitively. Having my face tattoo, I'm feeling more myself. I think my look is more aligned with who I am totally. And it gives not power, because you're not more powerful than anybody else, but it's more self-confidence, because you are more yourself. You say, okay, it's me, that's my way to be, it's my way to be in the world. And you have the self-confidence to say, okay, it's myself, you like me, that's good, you don't like me, it's good, because you don't like me for the good reason, because it's totally me. You
can more easily filter out people who would judge you by the way you look rather than how you are or who you are.
Yeah, a face tattoo is a superpower. in 5 seconds you know if you have someone very stupid in front of you. The biggest advantage it gives you, it's the first question someone have to you when you have a face tattoo say a lot of the people. If they say, okay, it was painful, you know that they don't like pain. You will regret later when you get old. You say, okay, it's people who not have a lot of insurance. Was it expensive? You know, you deal with someone who's very money-minded. And that's very cool because in 5 seconds you can categorize people and you know with who you are dealing with. And in other circumstances you will have maybe weeks to learn about that. That's it's a big advantage to have a face tattoo in the social life.
Do you remember what my first question was to you when we met in 2018?
I don't remember. I think it was, can I make a photo from...
Exactly that. And as we talked about before, I remember that because of the name Jobstoppers, you were a bit critical of the name because you thought that maybe it was from a place of sensation or
Yeah, but because one of my not motivation or my main purpose the last years and still now it's to fight against corporate discrimination about tattooed employees. And yeah, of course, if you make photoshoot for Jobstoppers, it's the totally opposite message. Okay, you get a tattoo, it's a Jobstopper. No, you have tattoos. And it must not be a job stopper. It's discrimination. It's why I was a little bit
skeptical
about the purpose and to link my image about this purpose.
Completely
but another
understand.
way, you always keep me the place to say what I want to say, and you stay totally honest about that. That's I'm totally agree.
Good, nice to hear. I actually started the project and I ironically called it Jobstoppers because I wanted to prove that people with face tattoos, it doesn't have to be a job stopper, so I'm happy that we aligned on that.
Yeah, and it's interesting to see in your tattoo portrait. Of course, there is a lot of tattoo artists or people working in the body modification industry, but also, there is also some employees with more normal job in your portraits, and I think it's super interesting. When I see Kevin, who's a nurse, I think it's super interesting to have a look like his look, and being a nurse and help people and deal with people to help to be better. And when I see so many people with suits who's very completely bastard and make so bad stuff, I will not say about politicians, bankers and stuff like that, but you will recognize yourself. Sometimes it's better to, I think it's more trustable to have someone with face tattoos and who's at least are honest with himself.
No, that's true. And I think it's also, if I can only inspire a couple of people, of course I don't have any face tattoos myself, so it's hard to say, but if I can only inspire people that are thinking of it, but are maybe feeling held back, to show them that people like you in a corporate job, people like Kev in a healthcare job, they are able to do it, then I think it served its purpose as to show that it's a valid option for people with face tattoos as well.
Yeah.
We talked about your background in IT, and in my book I also mentioned your involvement in generative art, if I'm pronouncing it correctly. Can you tell me a little bit about that? Because I thought it was really interesting to generate art and also to be able to translate it into the world of tattoos.
Okay, interesting. I've almost always make an opposition between my computer science skills and tattoo artist career path. At one time, a friend of mine showed me processing with an MIT concept language to create art with code, computer's code. I code since I'm 6 years old, something like that. I always code in my life. And I was like, okay, I will make art with coding. And it's a fun way. I will not say I will mix tattooing with generative art. For me, it was totally two separate stuff. But at the end, there is an influence. Generative art is interesting because you have to think the logic of your art. It's not about, you don't have a spontaneity like you have in tattooing or drawing, but you have to think, okay, if my line looks like that, you have to think, wow, how it must move, what's the mathematical formula. And in a way, I have a very analytic mind, and it's why it's connected with tattooing. It's each time I see a tattoo or tattoo artist, I analyze it and I see how is the philosophy behind this art, what's make this art his art or her art. And sometimes I get the inspiration not of the tattooing itself, but the philosophy behind the tattoo. And because when I see a tattoo, I can see, sometimes I'm asking, okay, how I will code it to have this result. And in that way, it gives me some inspiration for tattooing. One time with a client, I make a full back piece with mainly 3 intricate spirals. And instead of drawing with him, I was with him in front of my computers, and we begin to code and produce this very geometric, difficult form. And then I just print it, put a transfer and tattooing, and he have maybe one of the first code-generated tattoo motif on his back and so on. And I was also in the engineering design school in France, in Paris. They use a 3D printer to make an automatically a tattoo machine. I didn't go more than that because they had a burst from AutoCAD to go to Silicon Valley to continue this project. But to create the generative design to print the tattoo and making from the code to the end tattoo without human intervention, make all the process can be fun to do. I don't think it's the future of the tattoos, but it's just for the process and the sake of art, it can be an interesting path.
Yeah, I think it's super cool conceptually that you and the person are sitting at your computer and you are coding his design, and that he then afterwards you put it on his back, and that's how you went from coding it together to the end result of a tattoo. I think that's really cool. So it's nice to see.
Yeah, and then, it's kind of art to explore new way of working, and this way it was fun to code instead of drawing, and of course you can do stuff you cannot do by drawing or more difficultly, and it's open new opportunities.
So as you said, you are now you have a YouTube channel, you're making YouTube content. What is the goal there? What type of content you want to make? And what's your YouTube account? Where should people follow you? What should they expect from what you're making?
Okay, my YouTube channel is Krusty Cola, simply like that. My purpose is to talk about universal subjects, economical crisis, change of work, founding a family. But from the point of view of a tattoo artist or former tattoo artist, of a tattooed people, that's the purpose of the channel. Mainly, I begin to get older. As I said, I'm 45. I have some experience, and I want to transmit it. And I think from how I learn, I look a lot of YouTube videos. I want to make the self and say, okay, the knowledge I have, how to transmit it. YouTube channel was the best option to do it. Okay,
understandably. Okay, perfect. I think I'm out of questions. Thank you so much for the time. It was a pleasure again, and hopefully we'll see each other soon again.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure. Maybe in the next 5 years.
Go check out Krusty's YouTube channel and go like some of his videos and subscribe to his channel as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Perfect.